I'm Randy Milch. I'm the former general counsel of Verizon.
And Randy, so thinking a little bit about sort of your current job and conversations with other GCs at comparable sized companies, what's one data issue that keeps you up at night?
Well, I think the data issue that keeps every general counsel up at night is related to compliance. If you have a big company, you have a lot of people all over the world, one thing you can be sure of is someone's doing something wrong at every moment.
Absolutely. And so to date, have you guys, and not speaking sort of Verizon specific, but how are folks trying to solve that particular problem with sort of today's status quo?
I think largely people turn to training and iterations of training and carrying the flag to wherever you are in the world and saying this is right and this is wrong. I think that certain steps have been taken on a technological level. Generally steps that relate to protecting your perimeter and making sure you know what's going outside the company or coming inside the company. More difficult is trying to figure out when people are doing the wrong thing even close to real time. Not even the moment they're thinking bad thoughts, but the moment they are making that telephone call or issuing the requisition when they know they shouldn't, or signing a contract they don't have the authority to sign, or any one of those things. God forbid, bribing someone they shouldn't bribe.
Right.
Which is everybody.
I was going to say, shouldn't be bribing anybody, but so where does that particular attempt at solving the problem, where's the single space where it sort of falls down the furthest? Where's its softest spot?
In terms of being able to be conquered, or in terms of where it's worst for you?
Where is it worse for you? Where does the current status quo for solving the problem not get there?
I think the current status quo is that doesn't get there is that you're more interconnected than ever. There are more routes for people to do the wrong thing now than there ever were. Everyone has email, everybody has social media, everybody can make a phone call, everybody can do all sorts of things in a very disjointed way. There are ways in a well-run company to try to centralize ledgers and contracts and all sorts of things, but you'll find, if you're of any size, that you have legacy issues, you have legacy technology issues, you have legacy data issues, and the areas of non-compliance can be hidden, can be ongoing, and can be very difficult to ascertain, not to mention the fact that you're going to have people speaking all sorts of different languages. So all of a sudden, you're having to translate things, and you're not sure what people are doing because you're not sure of the culture. So there's lots of areas on the global scale where this becomes very difficult. But I think that the ubiquity of communication and the different languages and cultures really make it difficult.
So shifting a little bit away from sort of the problem set and thinking about what we've done today, what we've kind of talked about and what we've been through. What does AI mean to you after 10 or 12 hours sitting in a room with us today?
AI really means to me an unfulfilled promise at this point. I think that there is a lot of confusion along two vectors. One vector is that AI is going to replace human beings, which I do not believe is going to be the case, because I think most critical decisions are going to continue to be made by humans if they're going to be made in a way that is acceptable to the rest of humanity. I'm not sure they're going to be made better, but in a way that's going to be acceptable. The second aspect, second vector where there's an unfulfilled promise is that I think that there's been a lot more vaporware and hype about AI than there's been actuality about AI so far. The things that people think is AI at this point, in my mind, is really no different than the state of technology that has been for quite some time. It's a little bit of a stretch, but when I was a baby lawyer, one of the big things was, oh my God, you got to get this thing called Lexis, and you put in search words, and guess what? It searched the whole database of precedents and other things, and you got back information. I think that most of what passes for AI now is not a heck of a lot different than that. It's more advanced, and it's more advanced on many fronts, but from a conceptual basis, it's not much different. It's search words, it's a little bit of predictive coding, but that's not really the promise of AI. And I think that the more you learn about AI, when you really talk to the people who are leading it, like TextIQ, you learn that there's this big gap between what is commonly thought of as AI and is being sold as an AI solution, because that's a great buzzword, and what AI's promise is and what the leaders are actually coming up with. And so I think that those are the two things I've come to appreciate more and more about AI that I think are areas where TextIQ could be incredibly important at changing the game.
So, other than the fact that we ask you to come and we're super fun, what was the primary driver for coming to the Inaugural today?
Free dinner is way high on my list of what to come. But really, I feel a personal connection to the co-founders, to Omar and Apoorv. They are they really come across as great human beings. So that personal connection makes me want to come. But also, it was the opportunity to sit down with the other advisors, listen to the plans of the company, be able to offer some advice about that, because I used to have more hair, and the hair I had wasn't gray. So all those lost hairs are things that I can pass along to other folks, and I'm willing to do. And it's really been a tremendous thing to sit down with the folks in the room and go over those plans and listen to the promise and see what we can do to march along the path.
And so what was the single biggest takeaway that you have after today?
Jones Days has great offices downtown. I take that away from it. The New York Harbor is absolutely beautiful in the sunlight. No, I think that the biggest takeaway for me on this continues to be the hard work of thinking how to translate the potential into things on the ground. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit. Unfortunately, a lot of the low-hanging fruit isn't really that interesting. I mean, e-discovery is not that interesting to me. And honestly, it shouldn't be that interesting to anybody. It's a necessary evil. It's part of the litigation process. Okay, big deal. Not a strategic issue. Strategic issues are, by their very nature, much more difficult to get their hands on. And the capabilities of AI are so significant that being able to take those steps and say, okay, what is it that we can do better with the assistance of a machine that we have just not thought of yet? And it's that translation into use cases that is so hard, and is my big takeaway here, that I've got to sit down and think even harder about what it is that AI and TextIQ can be utilized for and made to make human interaction better.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.